بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم ربنا آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا وصلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah. We'll specifically begin with reciting Al-Fatiha for Asif Bhai's uncle, rahimahullah, who passed away recently, and for all of our loved ones or people that we know that have passed away, and for all that are suffering in the ummah. Al-Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. So, continuing where we left off, we were reading, going through sins of the heart from Imam Nahlawi. Is it good? Is it on? No? Bismillah.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Is this Imam Nawawi the same one that did the 40 hadith?
No, this is Nahlawi. Nahlawi. The other one is Nawawi.
Okay,
Nahlawi with the H. Bismillah. Jazakallah khair. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad al-Nabi al-Ummi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallim tasliman kathira. So, leaving off or resuming where we left off, Imam Nahlawi, rahimahullah ta'ala, we're on the 12th vice or sin of the heart. And we mentioned that we skipped over a few because those discussions would be lengthy. But the 12th one is al-Kibr. Al-Kibr, which is arrogance. It's with the sukoon in the middle, Kibr. If you say kibar with the fatha, it means to be larger than, right? Physically larger. So that's a different word. But kibr with the sukoon is arrogance. And he follows this one with a couple sins later. He mentions al-ujub. The 14th is al-ujub. So, al-ujub can be translated as narcissism, narcissism, al-kibr, arrogance. What's the difference? Al-ujub is merely internal. It's irrespective of other people. When one thinks themselves as special, when one thinks of himself or herself as deserving merit, whereas al-kibr is externally oriented. It's vis-a-vis another person, or vis-a-vis the truth. So we'll discuss that. And so kibr is a manifestation of ujub. Kibr is when ujub manifests externally. If it remains internal, it's ujub. So al-kibr, he defines it, he says, وَهُوَ الْإِسْتِرْوَاحُ وَالرُّكُونُ إِلَى رُؤْيَةِ النَّفْسِ فَوْقَ الْمُتَكَبَّرِ عَلَيْهِ فلا بد منه بخلاف العجب فإنه لا يحتاج إلى من يعجب عليه حتى يسمى عجبا. He says kibr, arrogance, is to find satisfaction. Istirwah is to find raha. You find comfort, you find satisfaction, you find a type of repose. وَالرُّكُونِ إِلَى, and also you rely on. So it's to find comfort, solace, and to rely on. رؤية النفس فوق المتكبر عليه, seeing yourself as superior to the one that you're arrogant towards. So it is to be comfortable with, to find solace in, and to rely on the notion of seeing yourself as superior than someone else. This is kibr. And so he makes the distinction between ujub. He says, so therefore, for kibr to take effect, there must be another person that you see yourself superior to, as opposed to ujub, narcissism, because a person alone can be narcissistic. It doesn't need a fellow person. He says, wal kibru haram. Kibr is unlawful. Okay, kibr is unlawful. It is a sinful disease of the heart. It's not merely blameworthy. Last week we mentioned a few that were blameworthy, like tama', for example, coveting something of the dunya. We said as long as that thing that you're coveting is not haram, then the tama' is not haram. It's very blameworthy. It's a type of disease, but it's not sinful in and of itself. Kibr in and of itself is haram. So there's actually sin incurred when a person sees himself as better than another and has these emotional components, these psychological components, which are istirwah and rukun, to find solace in it and to rely on it. He says it's a radila azima min al-ibad. It's really a horrific enormity. It's a disgusting enormity of servants. وَهُوَ سُنَّةُ إِبْلِيسَ اللَّعِينَ. It is the sunnah of the accursed devil. Okay, so this word sunnah, we use it normally for our Prophet ﷺ, which is the sunnah that we aim to emulate. But every character has their sunnah. Every person or agent or entity has their sunnah, the way a person is. And so Iblis, his sunnah is what? It's kibr. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands him to prostrate to Hazrat Adam alayhi salam, right, amongst the angels, he says no, he refuses to. Aba wastakbar. He refuses, wastakbar, and he has kibr. Allah ta'ala describes, wastakbar, he has kibr, he's arrogant. And what does he say? He says, Ana khayrun min. And here's now the definition. So he's finding solace and he's relying on seeing himself as superior to another. Ana khayrun minhu, I'm better than him. Khalaqtani min nar wa khalaqtahu min teen. You created me from fire, you created him from clay. Which also shows that Iblis responds with logic. Iblis responds with logic. It's faulty logic, but he attempts, it's a syllogism, right? I'm made of fire, he's made of clay. Fire innately is better than clay, therefore I am better than him. It's a syllogism, which is why when Allah's hukum comes, we make sajda, we put the head down on the ground. We don't try to rationalize with Allah's hukum, but we submit. And literally he was supposed to put his head on the ground, he was supposed to make sajda, he was supposed to submit to that hukum. But he tried to rationalize his way out, which is why our tradition, without going too much into a tangent, the way of Ahl Sunnah is revelation first and then reason. Revelation first and then reason. So revelation comes, the Prophet comes, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the people around him seek him. They seek suhbah, they gravitate towards him to receive revelation, and then as they go through life, as they teach, as the next generation takes from them, receives revelation from them, needs emerge in the community that require reason. So explaining the meanings, assuring the community there's no contradictions in our theology, responding to criticisms, whether of other theologians or converts from other traditions who come with their intellectual baggage or luggage, however you look at it. So then reason is deployed to preserve and undergird or support revelation, to justify, if you will, in the minds of people, revelation. But it does not start with reason, in the sense that the Sahaba did not hear the Quran, learn it, and then go off in the world as philosophers to simply reason their way and make analogies on their own. It's not reason first and then revelation, it's revelation first and then reason. And this is the unique paradigm of Ahl Sunnah. If you look at all the different sects of Islam who are still Muslim, but they are outside of the Sunni paradigm, most, if not all, put reason first. They put reason first, and they departed from these chains of narration, which is preservation of revelation. The isnad is ultimately a connection to revelation first. In Islam, iman and ihsan, in the physical worship, the intellectual understandings, and the experiential element of the religion, revelation first through suhbah, chains of narration to the Prophet ﷺ, but then in the different circumstances the community finds itself in, reason is deployed for its use. So Iblis rationalized before receiving revelation. So this is the way of Iblis, kibr. وَمِنْ أَشَرِّ الْأَخْلَاقِ الْمَذْمُومَةِ, and this is of the worst of blameworthy traits. وَصَاحِبُهُ مُنَازِعٌ لِلَّهِ تَعَالَى فِي كِبْرِيَائِهِ وَعَظَمَتِهِ. Okay, why is this so disgusting? One of the main reasons why kibr, arrogance, is so disgusting is because such a person is competing with God. Such a person is competing with Allah Ta'ala in Allah's kibriya. So Allah has kibriya. The human, when they are arrogant, they have kibr. But when a person has kibr, then they're trying to co-share in Allah's kibriya. Kibriya is Allah's unending majesty, His supreme majesty subhanahu wa ta'ala, His supreme glory subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah can say ana khayrun min. Allah can say Allahu Akbar. Allah is greater, Allah is better, Allah is superior. One of the names of Allah is Al-Mutakabbir. Al-Mutakabbir. When this word is used for human beings, it's a disease. When it's used for Allah, it's a praiseworthy name, one of the beautiful names of Allah, because He has the right to say, I am better than my creation, for He is indeed better than His creation. So when a person tries to have, when they're arrogant towards others, then it's as if they're competing with God in His kibriya wa adama, in His glory and majesty. And then he goes into terminology. He says, if this is manifested in behavior, it's called takabbur. If this is manifested in behavior, it's called takabbur. The way you talk to someone, the way you deal with someone, that's called takabbur. If it stays internal, it's simply that internal solace of feeling superior, then it's kibr. Then it's kibr. Which is why takabbur can be seen in the world. You can see takabbur in the world when one person is arrogant towards another. Okay? Whereas kibr in and of itself is in the heart of a person. And both are haram. And he's going to talk about how to deal with the mutakabbir a little bit. Ibn Mas'ud relates, Allah be pleased with him, that the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this is one of the most central hadith that has both ethics and metaphysics in it. Muslim relates this, it's Sahih hadith. The Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, لا يدخل الجنة من كان في قلبه مثقال ذرة من كبر. A person who in his heart is an atom's weight of arrogance shall not enter paradise. لا يدخل الجنة من كان في قلبه مثقال ذرة من كبر. And this is very frightening. Someone who has an atom's weight, مثقال ذرة. You know, the dharra is the smallest particle, so the string or the electron, whatever is the smallest. that much of kibr in their heart, لا يدخل الجنة, shall not enter paradise. Imam Nawawi rahimahullah, when he comments, Nawawi, not Nahlawi, Nawawi, when he comments on this hadith, he says that, of course, in our aqidah, every Muslim eventually goes to paradise. So, how do we understand the statement that the Prophet says, لا يدخل الجنة, shall not enter paradise, a person that has an atom's weight of kibr in their heart? That Nawawi says, rahimahullah, that with respect to a Muslim that has kibr, it could mean that they will not be amongst the first wave of Muslims that enter paradise, i.e., there's a great delay in their time. Or there is a temporary punishment that they have to go through in the hell before being taken out. We ask Allah to protect us from that. So, the hadith continues, فَقَالَ رَجُلٌ, a man asked, إِنَّ الرَّجُلْ يُحِبُّ أَن يَكُنْ ثَوْبُهُ حَسَنًا وَنَعْلُهُ حَسَنًا. He says, O Allah's Messenger, a person loves that his garments and his sandals look beautiful. A person loves for his garments and sandals to be beautiful. And he says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, إِنَّ اللَّهَ جَمِيلٌ يُحِبُّ الْجَمَالِ الْكِبْرُ بَطْرُ الْحَقِّ وَغَمْطُ النَّاسِ. So the Prophet responds, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, verily Allah is beautiful and loves beauty. So our desire to look nice, to be presentable in the way we dress, in the way we carry ourselves, this is not arrogance. And so how does the Prophet explain it? Allah is beautiful and He loves beauty. This is adorning yourself with something that reflects a divine attribute. Rather, what is kibr, what is arrogance? Batrul haqq wa ghamtun nas. It's obstinacy to the truth and demeaning other people. Batrul haqq, obstinacy, rejection, arrogant rejection of truth, and looking down and belittling fellow man. So there's two ways kibr manifests. We said it has to be vis-a-vis an other. The other can either be truth or a person. It's not only towards people. Belittling a person, that's kibr. But when truth is presented to a person, and when it's made clear and shown that it's true, then how does the heart respond? If it rejects it out of a state of a haughtiness, if it doesn't submit to truth, that's kibr, towards the truth now. So, batrul haqq wa ghamtun nas, or belittling fellow man. This is the hadith. And the ethics is obvious of being humble. The metaphysics is from the statement, Inna Allaha jamilun yuhibbul jamal. Verily Allah is beautiful and He loves beauty. In the sense that all of beauty in the world, every time we see beauty, every time we recognize beauty, we are in reality recognizing something of Allah. Every time we see beauty, we are in reality recognizing something of the divine beauty. It's mirroring an attribute of God. And if you notice, beauty is one of the three reasons why people fall in love. Right? The three reasons that people fall in love, the ulama say, Jamal, Kamal, and Ihsan. There's three reasons why people fall in love. Jamal, when they see beauty. Kamal, when they see perfection or mastery. And Ihsan, when people are good to them. When people act beautifully towards them. Ihsan, also from the root husn, which is beauty. It all goes back to beauty. So, in the world, when we see Jamal, when we see beauty, and we are the heart, there's something that happens to the heart, something that happens to the soul that's inexplicable. It's inexplicable. What is it that touches the soul, right? It's Allah touching the soul. When the heart sees Kamal, perfection, any perfection, you see a master pianist, a master musician, a master sports athlete, a master, anytime we perceive Kamal in the world, it's reflecting Allah's Kamal. Allah is the one giving the ability to reach mastery. And it touches the soul in a way that mundane things don't touch the soul. What's touching the soul? Something of Allah's perfection. When we see ihsan, anytime people around us are good to us, the goodwill and love that we experience, the generosity that we experience from our families, from our friends, from our communities, from the stranger that smiles, all of these, the big and the little, the great and the small, these are reflecting Allah's ihsan. It's really Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala working through His creation or with His creation. People are simply asbab, they're simply means. Allah is the ultimate agent. And so we are experiencing the divine ihsan, the divine excellent action or beautiful action. So our love, when it's directed towards creation, we don't realize we're actually loving Allah. When we're loving something in creation, in reality we're loving something of Allah's action that's touching us, or something of Allah's attribute that's touching us. And so the people of Allah, they realize this. Everyone, when they love, they're loving something of Allah. Allah is the one creating the situation that makes us fall in love with whatever it is. But the people of Allah recognize, they realize that it's Allah doing it. The people who are distant from Allah, they're heedless of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, kibr then, this is the great crime in Islam. وَسَبَبُ الْكِبْر, the basis of kibr, fil haqiqa, in reality, the ultimate root of kibr, al-jahl, is ignorance. It's not realizing that your fellow man and yourself are both creations of Allah. And so there's no basis of you feeling superior than the other. Whatever gifts you have that make you think you're superior are gifts from Allah. And as He created it in the first place, He can simply take it away. So if you're arrogant towards someone because of your good looks, how handsome you are, Allah is the one making you good looking, and Allah, God forbid, could take it away. If you're arrogant because of your wealth, just look at the 2008 financial crisis and how quickly multi-millionaires and billionaires can fall to petty change. Wealth is fani, it's going away. It's always perishing, and so Allah could take that away, God forbid. If the reason is you feel special is because of your intelligence, God forbid, Allah could take that away. Allah is the one giving you that tawfiq. And it doesn't have to be something dramatic. Sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can put the intelligent person in a context where they make a fool of themselves and they realize, man, I'm not as intelligent as I thought I was. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the muwaffiq. Whatever character trait in yourself that you are enamored by, that makes you feel superior, you're enamored by tawfiq of Allah. You're enamored by Allah's enabling grace, Allah's creative fiat. He is making you great. And so see the action of Allah before you see the whatever of yourself that you're impressed with. فَعِلَاجُهُ, so its cure, its treatment, إِزَالَةُ سَبَبِهِ, is to remove the cause. So to treat the ignorance that underlies it. Naam. So, and then he mentions that takabbur, which we said is when you manifest behavior of belittling someone else or acting arrogantly, acting haughtily, haughtiness. Takabbur, haughtiness, was when it manifests in behavior. He says, "What takabbur haram." Take this next sentence with a big grain of salt, but I'll just mention it. "What takabbur haram." Takabbur is unlawful. "Illa ala al-mutakabbir," except towards someone who is also haughty. فَإِنْهُ قَدْ وَرَدَ فِيهِ أَنَّهُ صَدَقَةٌ, because it has come in some narrations that that's a type of charity. So what is he saying? He's saying that if there is someone who's very arrogant and he's manifesting that, sometimes in certain contexts, if a person puts them in their place a little bit, they act a little arrogant towards them, just to help them be subdued a bit, then it's not haram in those contexts. As long as your intention is sound, and it doesn't lead to more fitna, which is why take it with a grain of salt, because it's very difficult to navigate these situations without causing more problems. But there's certain contexts where if a person does that, you know, sometimes like a teacher, for example, with the student is acting arrogant towards fellow students, so the teacher in the context can act a little bit towards him, put them back in their place. That is not haram. So what he's saying is that there's certain contexts, as long as it won't lead to more fitna, and basically it's for the sake of protecting someone from harming themselves with this sin, to humble them a bit. That's a type of sadaqah. That's a type of charity. And, you know, but don't get into the habit of that, because like we said, it's a slippery slope. No, bismillah.
I think when you're navigating things in the world, when you come upon that, if someone's really arrogant towards the situation, if you can't take care of business, or if you're trying to take care of business for the sake of God and somebody's been too arrogant, you have to be strong back.
Yeah.
Otherwise you don't gain any ground.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, even for the sake of God, you can't even handle your business.
Absolutely.
You can't even get a word in.
Yeah, yeah. So there's certain contexts where this is appropriate, where you have to sort of stand up, be strong, maybe put others in their place, not out of a real sense of arrogance, but for an ultimate benefit, or to ward off a worse harm, right? And so this comes with hikmah. This is where hikmah comes in, which is really a gift from Allah, that people of wisdom, they know how to deploy these things for the sake of God in their appropriate contexts. And, you know, we ask Allah for hikmah. So, naam. And I want to read a little bit from the Ihya Ulumuddin. So back to the default. So that's the exceptional situation. But back to the default, which is to, and even in that exceptional case, the heart is still humbled before Allah. You see, the person is doing it for the sake of Allah to mitigate a situation, but they're not genuinely arrogant internally. They're not genuinely, they don't believe that they're superior to that person, that they're doing it, because they realize Allah is the one testing him with that kibr. And if they don't have kibr in their heart, Allah is the one safeguarding them. So they realize, they see Allah's act in these manifestations. But so always, even in those exceptional cases, the heart has the opposite of kibr, which is tawadu'. The heart has the opposite of kibr, which is what? Tawadu'. Tawadu' is to be lower, is to see yourself as lower than fellow man. Tawadu' it's translated as humility, meaning what? To see yourself as lower than fellow man. Okay? The Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Ma tawada'a ahadun lillah illa rafa'ahu Allah." You know, these are golden, or far more valuable than gold. Spiritual gold. And these are, you can empirically test these. The Prophet is saying, no one lowered himself, again, vis-a-vis fellow man. No one lowered himself, no one was humble vis-a-vis fellow man for the sake of God, except that God elevated him. Except that God elevated him. Now,
that it connects with giving preference to others too.
Giving preference.
Because, you know, they're similar. When you're humble, if you see somebody want something that you're using or something, you can say, oh, you take that first. You know, if there's one bed, you have the bed. So it's a form of giving preference to others, which is chivalry.
Absolutely. Yeah, so, you know, futuwa, chivalry, and ithar, preferring others, it's based off of tawadu. You can't prefer someone else unless you genuinely elevate them in your mind compared to yourself. So the Prophet is teaching us no one ever lowers himself except that Allah elevates him. No one ever lowers himself for the sake of Allah except that Allah elevates him. And Imam Jurayri, the student of Imam Junaid, Imam Jurayri was the one, when Imam Junaid passed away, he took the kursi, like he took his position in Baghdad as the spiritual mentor of their students. And Imam Jurayri rahimahullah, there was a musibah, a calamity that affected the town, and when they went in afterwards and many people had died from this calamity, they found him, 7 months later, they found his body still intact, and he was in this position with the finger up. He had died in that state while the fitna was unfolding. he died in the state with Tawheed, and Allah preserved his body for several months as a sign for people. This is Imam Jurayri, amazing master, rahimahullah. Imam Jurayri, he made a statement that reflects this hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. He says, "Man radiya biduni qadrihi, rafa'ahu Allahu fawqa ghayatihi." It's a beautiful statement. Jurayri says, whoever is content with being less than his real value, whoever is content with being seen by others as less than his real value, Allah will elevate him beyond his limit. Allah will elevate him beyond his limit. فَوْقَ غَايَتِهِ. And you might have a certain genuine value that's true. You know, you might have certain qualifications, you might have certain background, you might have certain talents, and those are genuine gifts from Allah that you recognize. And maybe other people don't recognize that. And that's a test of tawadu. Are you going to be humble, or are you going to feel arrogant in responding to that lack of recognition? And Imam Jurayri says, whoever is content, fully content with that, with being seen as less than their true value, Allah will elevate them beyond their limit. Whatever limit you could imagine for yourself, that, you know, I couldn't imagine getting more than that, getting higher than that in whatever arena or field I would like to do or pursue. Allah will give more. So these are spiritual secrets that our masters mentioned. Our mother Aisha, Allah be pleased with her, she would tell her students, and she was a teacher of scholars. Our mother Aisha radiyallahu anha, Aisha radiyallahu anha, was a teacher of scholars. She would tell her students, إِنَّكُمْ لَتَغْفُلُونَ عَنْ أَفْضَلِ الْعِبَادَاتِ التَّوَاضُعِ. إِنَّكُمْ لَتَغْفُلُونَ عَنْ أَفْضَلِ الْعِبَادَاتِ التَّوَاضُعِ. She would say to them, verily you all are completely oblivious of the best form of worship. Tawadu'. You all are oblivious, you're heedless, you're not paying attention to the very best form of worship, which is tawadu', to humble yourself vis-a-vis fellow man. Yusuf ibn Asbat, one of the great of the Salaf, he says, يَجْزِي قَلِيلُ التَّوَاضُعِ مِنْ كَثِيرِ الْإِجْتِهَادِ. And this is particularly apt in our latter days with our lazy ways. He says, rahimahullah, يَجْزِي قَلِيلُ التَّوَاضُعِ مِنْ كَثِيرِ الْإِجْتِهَادِ. He says that just a little bit of humility will suffice a whole lot of spiritual exertion. You know, to get to very high ranks with Allah, people have to put in a lot of ijtihad, a lot of spiritual exertion, of pushing oneself in spiritual rigors and spiritual devotions. You can bypass all of that with just a little bit of tawadu, just a little bit of humility, and you'll reach the ranks of people of much spiritual works. Hazrat Isa alayhi salam, he's reported to have said that Allah Ta'ala revealed to him, it's reported that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to Prophet Jesus, peace be upon him, إِذَا أَنْعَمْتُ عَلَيْكَ بِنِعْمَةٍ فَاسْتَقْبِلْهَا بِالْإِسْتِكَانَةِ أُتَمِّمْهَا عَلَيْكَ. When I bless you with a blessing, when I grant you a blessing, then receive it with humbleness. Istikana, it's similar to tawadu', but it's literally to be broken. Istikana is when you're broken and subdued by Allah's gift. Istikana. He says, the narration says, Allah told Prophet Jesus alayhi salam, when I give you a blessing, then receive it with a state of istikana, with humbled brokenness in front of Allah's gift. Utammimha alayk. If you do that, I will fulfill that blessing. I will complete that blessing for you. Malik ibn Dinar, the great Tabi'i Imam, Malik ibn Dinar, he used to teach in the masjid his students, and he said once, if a man outside the masjid door made an announcement, let the worst of you come out. Let the worst of you come out. He said no one would beat me to the door except someone physically stronger or faster. Malik ibn Dinar. He said, if someone outside said, let the worst of you come out, no one would beat me to the door except someone physically stronger or physically faster. When Abdullah ibn Mubarak, the other great master of their generation, heard that Malik ibn Dinar said that, he says that's why he became a Malik. His name Malik is master. He says because of that he became a master. He realized his name. Musa ibn Qasim says, كانت عندنا زلزلة وريح حمراء فذهبت إلى محمد بن مقاتل فقلت يا أبا عبد الله أنت إمامنا فادع الله عز وجل لنا. So again, sees these masters of the early Salaf. Musa ibn Qasim relates that in their town there was once a violent earthquake and violent winds. Earthquake and violent winds, natural disaster. So he rushed to Muhammad ibn Muqatil, another imam at the time, and he says, Ya Abu Abdullah, O father of Abdullah, you're our imam, you're our shaykh, so make dua for us to Allah. Fabaka. So Muhammad ibn Muqatil starts weeping. And he says, Laytani lam akun sababa halakikum. He said, if only I weren't the very reason why Allah is sending this calamity. I would make dua, but if only I weren't the very reason that Allah is sending this calamity. Qal, the man who went to him, Musa bin Qasim, he says, فَرَأَيْتُ النَّبِي صلى الله عليه وسلم في النوم. That night I saw the Prophet in a dream, صلى الله عليه وسلم. فقال, and the Prophet says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ رَفَعَ عَنْكُمْ بِدُعَاءِ مُحَمَّدٍ بِن مُقَاتِلٍ. Verily Allah has removed this tribulation from you now because of the dua of Muhammad ibn Muqatil. Like, why was he a person that his dua was immediately accepted? And to such an extent that the Prophet gives the good news to his companion ﷺ in the dream, because he literally saw himself as the very reason that Allah's punishment was coming. So this is the humility of the early masters. And we'll mention one last statement from the Ihya, that Abu Sulaiman ad-Darani, another early master, 4th century I believe, of Syria, Abu Sulaiman ad-Darani rahimahullah says, لو اجتمع الخلق على أن يدعوني كاتضاعي عند نفسي ما قدروا عليه. لو اجتمع الخلق على أن يدعوني كاتضاعي عند نفسي ما قدروا عليه. And this is the sublime levels these people had reached internally. This is internal worship that they had. He says, if all of creation gathered to humble and lower me, the way I have, to the extent that I've already lowered myself internally, they would prove incapable of that. If the entire creation joined forces to make me humbled, to subdue my ego, the way I've already done so, they wouldn't be able to. I mean, these are the people that, alhamdulillah. So Imam Nahlawi, rahimahullah, he gives some symptoms to look out for if we have arrogance. He has some symptoms to look out for. He says that arrogance is often hidden from the one that has it. So he thinks that he's without arrogance. So it's necessary to present some of the characteristics of the arrogant so that everyone can inspect himself in comparison, whereby the despicable is distinguished from the wholesome. Amongst the signs of arrogance are the following: that a person like for people to stand for him or in front of him out of respect. If you like for people to stand for you or in front of you out of respect. That one does not walk except with someone behind him, if you prefer that others walk behind you. That if you avoid visiting others out of pride, if you avoid visiting others out of pride. To dislike for others to sit close to him, for one to dislike that others sit close to him. That one avoid keeping the company of people with illness or defects out of haughtiness and pride. To avoid keeping the company of people with illness or defects out of haughtiness and pride. The same applies to avoiding the company of the poor. This is a big one. To avoid the company of people who have in material poverty. This is a big sign of kibr, of arrogance. And on this note, Sulaiman alayhi salam, the great prophet, Solomon, peace be upon him, who was of the wealthiest ever, when he would leave his home every morning, he would examine the faces of the people sitting. They used to sit in circles outside of his house, and he would look at their faces, and when as he was walking, he could tell if people were wealthy or not. And so whenever he saw the wealthy, he would pass by them. He would keep on walking until he found the poor, and he would sit amongst them. He would survey people and keep on walking until he found the poor. And when he would sit with the poor, he would put his head down, and he would say, Miskin ma'al masakin. He would say, a poor man amongst poor men. A poor man amongst poor men. So this is the way of prophets, is to love the poor, want to be around the poor. And the Prophet ﷺ himself he advised Abu Dharr al-Ghifari and others with wasiyah, with specific counsel, to love the poor, hubb al-masakin, wa dunu ma'ahum, or dunu alayhim, and to actually have proximity with them, to have proximity with the poor. This is something, a great sunnah of our Prophet ﷺ. Another sign is that one disliked to respond to the invitation of the poor, yet responds to the invitation of the wealthy and sophisticated. Right? When you're invited by upper class people, quote unquote, you happily attend. If you're invited by lower class people, quote unquote, you're hesitant. That one does not undertake domestic chores with his own hands. Ya Latif. So the domestic chores of the house, right, to not do that is a sign of kibr. So one should be part of the team at home to take care of the chores. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. And this is our Prophet ﷺ. The hadith says, our mother Aisha described, kana fi mihnati ahlihi. In the authentic hadith, kana fi mihnati ahlihi. He was always in the service of his family. He was always in the service of his family. What's interesting about this hadith, and Allah knows best, if you actually look at the other narrations in the Shama'il about the prophetic chores in the home, what the Prophet would do, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it was his own chores. They would describe in other hadith, he would mend his own clothes, he would mend his own shoes, he would, fasten his own, whatever, his own personal objects, the chores relating to his own things at home, he would do those, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it's interesting, if this could be the interpretation of that hadith, he was always in the service of his family, in the sense that if the husband can at least do his own work, he's serving the family. My wife tells me that all the time. Just take care of your stuff and you've served us. My books pile up, and my books, they tend to take over the house. Right? They have like a life of their own, so I have to contain them, and alhamdulillah. That one does not carry his own groceries home from the store. That one does not carry, and obviously, one should try to serve the chores of others in the home too, we're not denying that, but it's a big thing for a lot of men especially to do their own work in home. And if they can do that, that is a service for the family. But the more the better. That one not carry his own groceries home from the store. That one does not carry their own groceries home from the store. That one disliked to fulfill the needs of his relatives or friends, especially buying inexpensive things. That one dislikes to fulfill the needs of his relatives or friends, especially with buying inexpensive things. And so to always be magnanimous in your persona, in your comportment, in your behavior. That one find it hard for his colleagues to walk ahead of him or sit in front of him. And you know, Imam al-Ghazali talks about with kibr and hasad, with arrogance and envy, these manifest most commonly with one's colleagues. You know, so the butcher, the local butcher, he normally doesn't get jealous with the local shoemaker or the local, but the fellow butchers who are competing, right, that's where these diseases manifest more. It's with the same, you know, when colleagues of a profession or a endeavor. And so one should be very vigilant when around one's colleagues to see the state of their heart. And so he gives a very simple example that you don't want them to walk ahead of you or to sit in front of you, but extend that to our circumstances now. So basically to not want them to have a superior position in the eyes of others relative to yourself. And then probably, possibly most important, the last sign he gives, that one does not accept the truth when debating one's colleagues, nor admitting to one's mistake, nor showing gratitude for being shown one's mistake, nor reflecting on what the other is saying during the debate, all out of contempt for the other person or out of obstinacy and seeking to outdo him. This is huge. Okay, I'll repeat it. A major sign of kibr, that one does not accept the truth when debating one's colleagues. If you're having a discussion or a debate, especially with colleagues, people that these diseases manifest a lot with, if the truth is manifest, right, the hadith, how did the Prophet define kibr, sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Batrul haqq, is to be obstinate to the truth. So it doesn't matter who the truth comes from, whether your competitor at work, whether a child, a 7-year-old, if the truth comes from them, whether an ignorant person, uneducated, illiterate, someone without a college education, the truth comes from, no matter who it comes from, the truth is the truth. And so when it manifests, to humble yourself, otherwise it's kibr. So he says, when not accepting the truth when debating one's colleagues, nor admitting to one's mistake. So when you make a mistake or your reasoning is incorrect, to be slow or hesitant to admit that you made a mistake, this is out of kibr, this is out of arrogance. The person of humility, it's not about me. So you're right, you know, I made a mistake. This was an error on my part. Nor showing gratitude for being shown one's mistakes. So some people, you know, yeah, I'll accept the truth in a debate, and I'll even admit to my mistake. But I'll feel a type of agitation or annoyance at the person who pointed out my mistake. There's still kibr in the person. The person without kibr, when they're shown their mistake, they actually respond with gratitude. Thank you for pointing out my mistake. Sublime levels. Nor reflecting on what the other is saying during the debate. So you just want to one-up them rather than seek the truth. So in debates and these things, it should be about the truth. If the truth is paramount, then it's more of a mutual journey to discover what is right. A prophetic debate would be a mutual journey to discover what is right. It's not about me putting them down. Okay, so long as it's about me putting the other down, there's doors for kibr. But if it's about a mutual journey, let's seek the truth together. And here's what I think. And here's why I think you're maybe mistaken. And, oh, okay, you brought this perspective. I didn't realize that. Thank you for that. You're helping me get to the goal of the truth, which is why Imam Shafi'i, rahimahullah, he said, I never debated someone except that I made dua that Allah manifest the truth on his tongue. Because it's not about Muhammad ibn Idris al-Shafi'i, it's about Allah. With Imam Shafi'i, it wasn't about him, it was about Allah. لِتَكُنْ كَلِمَةُ اللَّهِ هِيَ الْعُلْيَا. Naam. The next vice, which we won't spend too much time on, but it's worth just quickly mentioning, So we said kibr is arrogance to the truth or to fellow man. Its opposite is humility, to internally deem yourself as less than all others. Humility is to internally deem yourself as less than all others. Tawadu'. When, in terms of behaving with others though, there's always a balance. So this has to be balanced with an opposite vice on the other end of the spectrum, which is tadallul, which is self-abasement. Self-abasement. So when you're humble with your fellow man or fellow believer, you do so in a balanced way. If it's excessive as it's manifested, and we're making a distinction between the state of the heart and the behavior towards others. The state of the heart should be tadallul. The state of the heart should be very, very, like as low as one can go vis-a-vis the other. As we said, Abu Sulaiman ad-Darani rahimahullah, he said if all people gathered to lower me the way I've already done so inside, they wouldn't be able to. So his internal state is at zero. But the way we interact with others should not be tadallul. We should not be, we should not abase ourselves in that as an expression of that. So we should be humble, have humility, but with the dignity of a believer, the dignity of a fellow brother. And that's the balance. And this is important. So that is blameworthy. It's not haram, but it's blameworthy. Okay? Because al-mu'min la yudillu nafsa. The Prophet said ﷺ in the hadith, the believer does not abase himself. And so so there's the balance between we're never arrogant towards others. We are moderate in our humility with each other, balanced with the dignity of the believer, and we do not abase ourselves with other people. But internally there is a deep self-abasement, if you will. There are a few exceptions though, that in our tradition, one exception is when you're seeking sacred knowledge. If someone is seeking knowledge of this religion, then there is a type of flattery one should have with one's teachers, with one's teachers, and even with one's co-students. Even with one's co-students, this would not be blameworthy if one manifested a type of tadallul, where you completely lower yourself. Why? Because it allows for more benefit. The teacher, clearly, the more one is the more one lowers oneself vis-a-vis the teacher, that allows the opportunity to gain more of their wisdom. And even fellow students, because that type of benefit is there. But again, without being excessive. Without being excessive. Okay? The next vice, 14, is ujub. Ujub, we said, is narcissism. So again, narcissism was purely internal and it has nothing to do with other people. It's defined as استعظام النعمة والركون إليها مع النسيان إضافتها إلى المنعم الحقيقي وهو الله تعالى. فإن الاشتغال بالنعمة عن المنعم عجب مذموم. Narcissism, ujub, is for someone to deem his blessing as tremendous, to deem one's blessing as tremendous, and to rely on it while forgetting to attribute it to its giver, namely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Indeed, being preoccupied by a blessing from its giver is blameworthy narcissism. So, to be impressed with the gift and forget Allah. This is ujub. Ujub is to be impressed with the gift of Allah while forgetting the giver, Allah. So, your good looks, your athletic ability, your genius, your ability to write, your ability to dress, your ability to drive, your ability to drive others mad, whatever it is. You're so impressed with that talent and you're not thinking of Allah at all. This is ujub. That itself is ujub. So to notice your gifts without noticing Allah is a blameworthy disease of the heart. Notice, it's very nuanced. To notice any gift without noticing Allah is a blameworthy disease of the heart. It's not haram, but it's blameworthy. We said kibr is haram. When that seed grows so much to where you think you're better than others, then it's haram. Even if you don't act on it, just thinking yourself as better than others is haram. Thinking yourself internally not submitting to the truth is haram. Right? Mithqala dharra, anyone that has even an atom's weight of that won't enter paradise immediately. But narcissism is the seed of that, is just to notice your blessing without noticing Allah. Look at the Prophet ﷺ. Every time there's a blessing, he praises Allah. Look at all, just read like any of the book of du'as of the Prophet ﷺ, the book of Adhkar, Imam Nawawi, which is translated in English. Everyone should have a copy. The remembrances of Imam Nawawi. The believer should be connected with that book, and even if it's once every 3 months, learn a new dua. We should always be increasing in the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Okay? We should always be learning a new dua. Like one really amazing, they're all amazing, a dua that maybe we could learn together. That when the Prophet ﷺ would get a new garment. When the Prophet ﷺ would get a new garment. Okay? Now here, a lot of us might get the new garment and not think of Allah and be like, oh, look at this that I have. And that's ujub. So look how the Prophet ﷺ, his very hal, his state, removes the ujub by referring to Allah. What does he say when he gets the new garment? He says, first thing, Allahumma lakal hamd. Oh Allah, for you is praise. Ajib. Yani the most mundane thing we don't even think about, the Prophet is seeing it as a tajalli of Allah. Yani Allah is manifesting Himself to me. Allahumma lakal hamd. Oh Allah, for you is all praise. Anta kasawtanihi. You donned me in it. You donned me in this garment. As'aluka khayrahu wa khayra ma suni'a lah. I ask you for the good of it and the good of for which it was manufactured. Whoever made it, whatever good intention they have, I seek that. وَأَعُوذُ بِكَ مِنْ شَرِّهِ وَشَرِّ مَا سُنِعَ لَهُ. And I seek refuge in you from its evil and whatever evil intention the manufacturer might have had when making it. Now especially in our time, when these brand names of God knows which corporations and what demonic actions they're doing and how they're disenfranchising the third world, quote unquote so-called third world, we should really make this dua, seeking refuge from the evil of whatever intention was behind. Like we don't want any of that baggage. We just want to value the gift that Allah has given us. And so Allahumma, oh Allah, for you is praise. You donned me in this garment. I ask you if it's good and the good for which it was made. I seek refuge in you in the evil and the evil for which it was made. And one of the beautiful isharas that we learned from our teachers is that this is also a beautiful dua if Allah dons a new spiritual garment on you. So one of the things we were taught is that if Allah gives you the tawfiq to do a new good deed that you hadn't been doing before, it's as if Allah gave you a new garment, a spiritual garment for your ruh. And so you should say this dua with the new tawfiq that you have, a new good deed that you weren't doing before. Allahumma lakal hamd. Oh Allah, for you alone is the praise. Anta kasawtanihi. You donned me in this good deed. You sent this good deed and draped me in it. I ask you for its good and the good for which it was created, and I seek refuge from the evil and the evil for which it was created. So again, if you go through the adhkar of the Prophet ﷺ, you'll notice he's always seeking the giver whenever the gift is manifest. He's not rejecting gifts, but he wants the giver of the gift, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is the sunnah we should seek. So what's the opposite of ujub? The opposite of ujub is called dhikrul minnah. Dhikrul minnah is to remember the gift. It's to recollect Allah's favor. Dhikrul minnah. Why? Allah is al-mannan, the one that gives the favor and has the right to proclaim, to remind of the favor. You know, man, this root man, in human beings it's haram. In human beings it's haram. It's like, you remember that time I did that for you? Come on, what's up? Remember the time I did that and the time I did that? This is called man. And Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran, when you give sadaqah, don't follow it with man or adha. If you give charity, don't follow that charity up with reminding them of the charity or hurting their feelings in that process. There's something that it's prohibited in the sacred law to do that. So we should never remind someone of the... Why? Because Allah is Al-Mannan. He can give the gift and He can remind us. Didn't I give that to you? Allah is Al-Mannan, the supreme reminder of His gifts, subhanahu wa ta'ala. The one that gives favor and has the right to remind us. And so dhikrul minna is the cure for ujub, to recollect Allah's favor with the gift. To recollect that the gift only exists by the tawfiq of Allah. And because Allah has honored the person and Allah has magnified the person with that gift. هذا الذكر فرض عند دواعي العجب. Imam Nahlawis says, to do this, to recollect the favor of God, is a religious obligation when one finds himself prone to those things that pull one into ujub. عند دواعي العجب, when the things that pull one into narcissism are inciting one to feel special, because of one's talents or gifts, then it's obligatory to recollect Allah's favor. If you think about it, what's really amazing, everything in our religion is rooted in Tawheed. Everything in our religion is rooted in Tawheed. It's recognizing the oneness of Allah. Like this disease, it's because of forgetting Allah's oneness. And you think that these talents are just coming. It's like the atheist, although the person of ujub is still Muslim, but it's like the atheist who thinks the whole universe came from nothing. You think your gifts came from nothing? You think they just sprung into existence without a creator? So the same way the atheist or the cosmologist who thinks the Big Bang just happened and there's no explanation, and you know, the scientist seeks out the cause of everything in the world except the whole world. It's a bit prejudiced. The scientist seeks out every single thing that happens. They want to know what caused that, what caused that, what caused that. When they find out the world had a beginning and they call it the Big Bang, they say, I'm not going to ask what caused it. It's a bit biased and prejudiced, right? So the whole world, they say, it just came out of nothing. It just spontaneously, something from nothing. So that the person of ujub is co-sharing in that disease. Because it's like these talents just came out of nothing? No, it's the Tawheed. Our religion is a religion of radical Tawheed. The only thing radical in our religion is our recognition of Allah's oneness. This is the only thing radical in our religion, the monotheism in the heart of the believer, realizing Allah's oneness. So the gift of the garment, the gift of the food, the gift of the talent, seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's act in that gift. Recognizing the Tawheed of Allah in that gift. The Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, thalathun muhlikat. Anas relates, Allah be pleased with him, that the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this is related by Bayhaqi, thalathun muhlikat. There are three things that are destructive. There are three things that are utterly destructive. Shuhun muta' wa hawan muttaba' wa i'jabul mar'i bi nafsihi. Shuhun muta', stinginess that is obeyed. Stinginess in the soul that a person succumbs to. Wa hawan muttaba', and whims that one follows. Stubborn whims, hawa, that a person follows. This is particularly with intellectual whims. Hawa in our tradition is used particularly for intellectual whims. When a person is stubborn with their opinions. When the person is stubborn with their opinions. And it's used often for those opinions that are against our creed. Those opinions that are against our creed and against the way of traditional Sunnism. So what could be called often do-it-yourselfism. The opposite of Sunnism is do-it-yourselfism. And when you think you can just give me the kitab, and I learn enough Arabic, and I can read certain books now, and I can figure out the religion. If you think about it, this is the root cause of the entire spectrum of the Ummah's problems right now. On one end of this extreme liberalism that manifests with things like the gay Muslim phenomenon, where homosexuality is being justified, right, by rereading of the scripture. and on the other end by violent terrorism, where the most demonic, harmful acts to fellow man are being justified by a rereading of scripture. And everything in between. Everything in between. What's the common denominator? The root of all of this is do-it-yourselfism. Is that I have access to the book, I have access to a certain corpus, hadith or whatnot, or commentaries. I know enough Arabic, you know, to read the modern newspaper or whatnot. It's not even classical Arabic, it's just modern. And now, on my own, I can navigate this tradition, I can figure this tradition out. And we mentioned earlier, Sunnism is about revelation and suhbah first, before reason. This paradigm is using your own reason first, without suhbah, without any chain of narration, without any murabbi, without any shaykh, murshid, guide, teacher, scholar that you're learning from. And this is the recipe of the whole spectrum of diseases. It emerges from this do-it-yourselfism. What's the opposite of do-it-yourselfism? Traditional Sunnism. Traditional Sunnism. Really. And so the Prophet saying, ﷺ, of the three things that are destructive, the second, hawan muttaba, hawan is your intellectual whim that you're so stubbornly holding on to, that's contrary to the way of the Sunnah. This is what hawa means. And so hawan, do-it-yourselfism, muttaba, that's enacted, that's followed in the world. This destroys, we can see how it's destroying the fabric of society, not simply the soul of the human being, but the fabric of society. Now,
what is an intellectual whim?
An intellectual whim, it's like an opinion, particularly about the religion, that contravenes the way of our traditional ulama, and a person is stubbornly holding on to it. Stubbornly holding on to it. So, all of these notions, these are intellectual whims. These are whims of the mind that the people do not let go of. You know. The third thing in the hadith, ثلاث المهلكات, the third thing that destroys, إعجاب المرء بنفسه, which is in the context of our discussion, when a man is impressed with himself. When a person is impressed with himself, it destroys the person, it destroys the very fabric of society, and it's related to the second part of the hadith, the whims that are followed. Because when you follow your whim and then you're impressed with your own opinion, it's a recipe for disaster. Allah Ta'ala says in Surah Fatir, verse 8, أَفَمَنْ زُيِّنَ لَهُ سُوءُ عَمَلِهِ فَرَآهُ حَسَنًا أَفَمَنْ زُيِّنَ لَهُ سُوءُ عَمَلِهِ فَرَآهُ حَسَنًا, or the one whose wretched act is adorned in his mind. زُيِّنَ لَهُ سُوءُ عَمَلِهِ, his wretched, horrible action is adorned for him, فَرَآهُ حَسَنًا, so he deems it to be beautiful. A'udhu billah. This is the state of the ummah. Horrible actions that are beautified in the diseased minds of people who have no connection to our tradition, and then ra'ahu hasana, they think this is the right thing to do. They think this is the right thing to do. You know, subhanAllah, look at the miracle of the Qur'an. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, in 7, 8 words in this, the beginning of this ayah, Surah Fatir, verse 8, Allah Ta'ala He gives us the diagnosis of the whole spectrum of the problems of the ummah. That's it, right there. That's it. That's the power of the Qur'an, Allah's speech. Eternal speech, it's applicable right now, currently. Allah speaking, أَفَمَنْ زُيِّنَ لَهُ سُوءُ عَمَلِهِ فَرَآهُ حَسَنًا, or the one whose disgusting, horrific, wretched action is adorned and decorated in his diseased mind so much that he actually thinks it's good. He thinks it's good. A'udhu billah. And then look at, subhanAllah, how Imam Nahlawi concludes the section. He says, فَعِلَاج هَذَا الْعُجُبِ أَعْسَرْ وَأَصْعَبْ. So the treatment of ujub, this ujub, which is when you're impressed specifically with your intellectual whims and your opinions, he says it's the most difficult to treat. إِذْ صَاحِبُهُ يَظُنُّهُ عِلْمًا لَا جَهْلًا, because the possessor of it thinks that it's actual knowledge and not ignorance. وَنِعْمَةً لَا نِقْمَةً, and he thinks it's a blessing from God, not a punishment from God. وَصِحَّةً لَا مَرَضًا, he thinks he's healthy and not diseased. فَلَا يَطْلُبُ الْعِلَاج, so he's not going to seek treatment in the first place. وَلَا يُصْغِي إِلَى الْأَطِبَّاءِ الرُّوحَانِيِّينَ, look at this. And such a person will not seek out the treatment of the spiritual doctors, الأطباء الروحانيين الذين يعلمون أمراض القلوب ويداوونها, those who understand the diseases of the heart and treat them. And who are they? وهم علماء أهل السنة والجماعة. Ajib. And they are the righteous scholars of Sunni orthodoxy and consensus. Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. They are the righteous scholars of the Sunni tradition. Nasr Allahu Ta'ala kalimatahum ila qiyam as-sa'ah. He makes dua, may Allah give victory to their words until the final hour. Tayyib, the 15th one. The 15th one is hasad, envy. جزاكم الله خير. Hasad, Imam Nahlawi defines it, rahimahullah, إرادة زوال نعمة الله تعالى عن أحد مما له فيه صلاح ديني أو دنيوي من غير ضرر في ذلك الأمر في الآخرة أو عدم إرادة وصولها إليه وحبه من غير إنكار له. Hasad or envy. Envy is to desire the removal of a blessing of Allah from a person. Envy is to desire the removal of a blessing of Allah from a person when that blessing entails religious benefit or worldly benefit for that person, yet no religious harm. This is very nuanced. These definitions are very important. Envy is to desire the removal of a blessing of Allah from a person when that blessing entails either religious or worldly benefit, either religious benefit or worldly benefit for that person, yet no religious harm. Yet no religious harm. So, you see a blessing in someone else, you see someone else that has a blessing from Allah, and that blessing is beneficial for them, whether their deen or their dunya. Whether their deen or their dunya. They're positioned to serve the religion. They have the talents to serve the religion in a particular capacity. They're a good speaker, they're a good writer, they're knowledgeable, they're a servant, they're positioned in a certain organization to work for the religion. They're a qari, they're a philanthropist. Whatever avenue they have of serving the religion, they have of allowing for religious benefit or worldly benefit. You see a blessing in someone that enables them to succeed in their work, that enables them to have a better education, that enables their children to have better education, that enables their loved one to succeed in something worldly. It's not even religious. It has nothing to do with religion. Allows for worldly benefit. Okay. And coupled with that is it does not entail religious harm. So it's not going to entail them doing something sinful. It's not going to entail them going in a path that would make them far from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then, in that case, if you desire that Allah takes away that blessing, you wish they didn't have that blessing, that's hasad. If you wish they did not have that blessing, that's hasad. Why did he add that last part? Because if you see a blessing in someone that allows for worldly benefit but religious harm, then you might want them not to have it because you care for them. You're realizing that that's going to harm their deen, and so you wish they didn't have it because you love them and you don't want them to be in trouble in the next life or even this life as a repercussion of what that could do to their relationship with Allah. That's not hasad. It's out of a genuine concern and love for them. So he added this point at the end, yet no religious harm. When there's no religious harm entailed, then the blessing, whether of religious benefit or worldly benefit, you should love for them to have it. You should be content that Allah gave them that blessing. So if you find yourself that you wish they didn't have it, this is hasad. You've fallen into hasad. And he gives us second version of this is, or if you desire that such a blessing did not reach them in the first place. You wish they never got it. So there's a different vantage, that you wish they lose it now, or you wish they never got it in the first place. There's two sides of the same coin. It's hasad. Some ulama have added that this can be diagnosed even if you find agitation in the heart. It's very, very important to monitor one's heart in these situations. Even if you find a bit of agitation or stress or anxiety or discomfort in the heart because of someone else's blessing, there's a piece of hasad there. It doesn't have to become an outright thought of I wish they lost it or I wish they didn't get it. Even that initial discomfort, agitation in the heart is a type of hasad in the heart. The goal of the believer is to be completely content and smooth with the distribution of blessings in creation. To allow Allah to distribute as He wants. To give Allah the right, which is His right, to distribute as He wants. Alhamdulillah. And to let the dhikr of Alhamdulillah flow upon the soul. Ideally, and we say this like gazing at the stars, we want to aspire to these levels, is like water, where the Alhamdulillah flows on the soul like water. Like if there's no agitation at what Allah has given fellow man, fellow human beings. A third way envy could manifest is if you notice another person's envy and you don't condemn it. You're pleased with it. There's no internal condemning of it. You don't necessarily have to speak against it, but internally you should condemn it. If you find yourself content and happy that they're envious of someone else, that's something of your envy then. It's only because of envy inside that you're okay with someone else having, if they manifest envy, for example. It should be condemned in the heart. There's a very nice quote from Sea Without Shore on this topic. I'll read this. Some egos are so possessed by envy that even hearing another praised weighs upon them. One must watch one's heart and reactions carefully, for envy lies at ambush on any path, even spiritual, that involves both a social collectivity and striving in excellence. Anytime we're in a group, a collective, that's a social collective, and there's some sort of striving for excellence, envy is awaiting, ready to attack people of that group. Whenever envy appears, one must pop the pustule while it is still small. How do you pop the pustule? By sincere sorrow and disgust at the sin and asking Allah's forgiveness, istighfar. Make a lot of istighfar, astaghfirullah, for that. And telling Allah that one does not accept this trait from one's nafs. This must be repeated every time it occurs to one. If left alone, it will become an abscess. It will grow to become an abscess, and finally a full cancer. When one's thoughts revolve around nothing but the envied, and the heart is on fire, it then requires great mujahada to treat, great exertion to treat. By doing all of the above, in addition, sincerely praying for the person whenever he comes to mind, praying what? That Allah prosper him in this world as well as the next. That Allah prosper him in this world as well as the next. So we should be very, very vigilant in attacking this disease by making istighfar, by telling Allah we don't accept this, by making dua for that person, feeling disgust at it, making dua for that person, for not simply the akhirah but for this world. Oh Allah, let them let them succeed in this world. Grant them great tawfiq in this world. Let them shine in this world. Because we should love for them what we love for ourselves. And so it's easiest to get it at the beginning. It's easiest to get it, nip it in the bud. Nip it in the bud. Otherwise it'll overwhelm. God forbid. Okay, some of the fiqh of envy. When is it haram versus simply blameworthy? Imam Nahlawis says, if envy occurs to the heart inadvertently and the person immediately condemns it, then by agreement there's no harm in that. He has not committed sin. If envy occurs to the heart inadvertently and the person condemns it internally, then by agreement there is no harm in that. There is no sin in that. If he does not condemn it, however, or if it occurs by choice, he chooses to be envious, then by agreement it is unlawful envy. Afwan. The fiqh is a bit complicated. So by agreement it's unlawful envy if he acts accordingly. Even if only a trace of it manifests on his limbs, to actually act out the envy. If he does not act accordingly, and there's simply that envy in the heart that he either chose or that he did not condemn, then there is a bit of khilaf, but the opinion of Ghazali and the majority is that it's haram, and we should stick with that opinion. So let me repeat the fiqh. It occurs inadvertently, and the person condemns it immediately. Everyone agrees there's no sin incurred. Okay? But one should strive to, it doesn't even occur inadvertently. One should reach those higher levels. But if it does occur inadvertently and the person immediately nips it in the bud, they're free of sin. Okay. If he, however, he does not condemn it, he allows it to stay. Or if he actually indulges it, he chooses to have envy. Then if he acts it out, if he does something to get that person to harm them in some way or something, then everyone agrees it's haram. Everyone agrees that that action is haram. However, if he does not act on it and it simply exists in the heart, there is a bit of khilaf amongst the fuqaha. There is a difference opinion amongst the fuqaha. Is it haram or just blameworthy? The position of Ghazali is that it's haram. And this is the opinion we should follow, because it's such a big disease and cancer. We should not allow such a thing we should be vigilant against it. So that's the sort of the fiqh breakdown on that. Now, this differs from ghibta. Hasad differs from ghibta. What's ghibta? Ghibta is a type of jealousy that's not unlawful. You know, we're using envy for hasad. There's a type of jealousy, ghibta, that's not unlawful, which is what? Which is that if the person does not desire the removal of another's blessing, they simply desire to have the same for themselves. So I don't want the other person to lose their blessing at all. I'm completely happy that they have that blessing, but I wish I had the same. This is not hasad at all. This is ghibta. Ghibta is not haram. Ghibta is a type of jealousy that's permissible in the Sharia. If it's for something of religious benefit, it's actually recommended. Someone is so adept at reciting Quran, I wish I had the same. I don't want them to lose it, I wish I had the same. It's actually recommended, because that'll move you to pursue improving your recitation of Quran. Someone I noticed, they're so generous, I wish I had that trait. That's praiseworthy, because it'll move you to work on being more generous. So we see the good in others, religious good in others. It's a means to improve ourselves. It's a praiseworthy thing in the religion. Praiseworthy ghibta. If it's of something worldly, then it's blameworthy. If it's of something worldly, it's not a healthy thing. It's not haram, but it's not a good thing. So and so has the Mercedes. I wish I had the Mercedes too. There's nothing haram, as long as you don't want them to lose their Mercedes. Don't get happy if someone keys their Mercedes. Okay? A'udhu billah. If someone keys their Mercedes, don't get happy. If you want that Mercedes, there's nothing haram, but it's not ideal, right? That's not necessarily the best place to be. Unless you want a Mercedes for some good cause, like maybe you have a religious aim in mind. What's a religious aim of having a Mercedes? Like, you would be so respected in society, people would be like, oh, these Muslims got it down. So, there's some good aim that you have for the religion, then inshallah it falls under religious good. So if you can tie it to something for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then it's all good. But if it's purely worldly, right, I wish I had that worldly thing too. It's not a good place to be, but it's not haram at all. And Allah knows best. And the thing is, the problem is, it's a door to problems. That's why it's blameworthy. It's a door to a lot of problems. Because then you get the Mercedes, and then the other guy gets the upgraded with the 2 Series to the 4 Series, and now you don't like your 2 Series anymore. So you're going to be you're going to lack shukr, lack gratitude, lack contentment, always be frustrated. If you're looking at other people's blessings, even if you don't want them to lose it, you're in a bad place. That's why it's blameworthy. So ideally, just be with Allah, and inshallah you'll be happy. Ya Rab. The opposite of hasad. The opposite of hasad is nasiha, is genuine concern and well-wishing. Genuine concern and well-wishing. Nasiha, which is that you desire for others to have those blessings. You're happy that they have their blessings. You want it to continue because you care about them and you want good for others. And this is incumbent upon the servant. He says this is a wajib on the servant. It is wajib to have nasiha. Okay? It is wajiba. It is a religious obligation to have nasiha. As our Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ad-deenu nasiha. The entire religion is genuine concern for the other. The entire religion is genuine concern for the other. And even more powerful as an antidote, even more powerful as an antidote to one's hasad is ithar. Ithar is when you push yourself, to reach the sublime level of preferring others over yourself. Preferring others over yourself. So if a person can really work on acquiring ithar, on acquiring this preference for others, then they will be free of hasad, and inshallah the barakah of that will be greater than whatever blessing they used to envy. The barakah of ithar will be better than whatever blessing they might have envied before. So this is the ultimate cure for hasad. I wanted to read, we'll conclude inshallah with this and then see if there's questions. I wanted to read from so Shaykh Mustafa al-Arusi, rahimahullah, Shaykh Mustafa al-Arusi, he was the Shaykh of Azhar in the mid-19th century, 1800s on the Western calendar. And this was at a time when Azhar was still Azhar in the most traditional sense. And so he wrote a commentary he wrote a super commentary on Qushayri's Risala. And it's a phenomenal work of our tradition. It's a hidden treasure of our tradition. And so Qushayri has Babul Hasad, the chapter on Hasad. This is the introduction of the commentator Shaykh Arusi on Qushayri's chapter on envy. He says that أقول الحسد تمنى زوال نعمة الغير عنه فهو من الكبائر. It's very scary. He says that, I note, envy is to desire for another person to lose their blessing, and this is of the major sins in Islam. This is of the enormities, kaba'ir of Islam. And then he talks about that, he makes the distinction between this and ghibta, which is simply wanting for yourself the same. And he says there's different types of that, and we already talked about that. He says, وَعْلَمْ أَنَّ الْحَسَدِ عَلَى مَعْنَى تَمَنِّي زَوَالِ نِعْمَةِ الْغَيْرِ عَنْ ذَلِكَ الْغَيْرِ عَظِيمٌ إِثْمُهُ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. Hasad, which the unlawful hasad, which is to want another to lose their blessing, is a great sin with Allah. قَدْ هَلَكَ بِهِ كَثِيرٌ قَدِيمًا وَحَدِيثًا. Many people have perished because of this, both in ancient times as well as recent times. وَبِهِ هَلَكَ إِبْلِيسُ وَجُنُودُهُ مِنَ الْكُفَّارِ. And this is the source of how Iblis and the other minions have perished. قال تعالى. And he says that جُنُودُهُ مِنَ الْكُفَّارِ, you know, the time of the Prophet ﷺ, most of the people who rejected him was out of hasad. That why did God choose him? He's just the orphan of Bani Hashim. You know, I am the Azim of Quraysh, this is the Azim of Ta'if. There we have the notables. Why would Allah Ta'ala choose the orphan of Bani Hashim? So many people have perished because of hasad. قال Ta'ala. He quotes an ayah from the Quran. وَدَّ كَثِيرٌ مِّنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ لو يردونكم من بعد إيمانكم كفارا حسدا من عند أنفسهم من بعد ما تبين لهم الحق. الآية, giving an example of how people that reject faith, they do so out of hasad, and they want the believers to lose their faith. Now he says, وَحُكْمُ الْحَسَدِ, Shaykh Arusi continues, وَحُكْمُ الْحَسَدِ, the legal ruling of envy, التحريم, it's haram. وَسَبُبُهُ, this is really important, the cause of envy, al-i'tirad ala fi'l al-hakim. It is objecting to the action of the All-Wise. It is objecting to the action of the All-Wise. And we said earlier, the cure of all these diseases is our tawheed. And so when a person is upset that someone else has a blessing, they're objecting to Allah and His hikmah in giving that person that blessing. وَثَمْرَتُهُ, what's the fruit of hasad? دَوَامَ الْهَمْ الْجَسِيمِ, is perpetual anxiety, is perpetual and colossal anxiety. Ham jasim, a great amount of anxiety that lasts. Perpetual and colossal anxiety. فَاللَّهُ تَعَالَى يَرْزُقُنَا السَّلَامَ وَالتَّسْلِيمِ. May Allah protect us from this bijah Rasul al-Azim, by the station of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. قال بعضهم, I can't resist you notice the tawassul of the Shaykh of Azhar in the 19th century. And he's the Shaykh of exoteric Islam, Azhar, the Kaaba of the people of seeking knowledge in our tradition. وَقَالَ بَعْضُهُمْ, one of the masters said, سَبُبُهُ, the reason that a person has hasad, كَثْرَةُ الْجَهَالَات, is just the layers of ignorance, the layers and layers, multiplicity of ignorance. وَقِلَّةُ الْيَقِينِ, and how little yaqeen they have in Allah. If a person of yaqeen, they don't object to what Allah is doing. وَدَنَاءُ الطَّبْعِ, and the vileness of their nature, they have a low nature. وَسُوءِ الْأَدَبِ, and bad adab with Allah. وَعَدَمُ الْقَنَعِ بِالْمَقْسُومِ, and not being content with Allah's distribution. وَعَدَمُ الرِّضَى بِقَضَاءِ الْحَكِيمِ, and not being pleased with the decree of the All-Wise. وَالْبُعْدِ عَنْ مَقَامَاتِ الْعُبُودِيَّةِ, and being distant from the stations of servitude. Being distant from the stations of servitude. It's like we're all ibad of Allah. What right do we have to even open our mouths? What right do we have to say a word to Allah's actions? Allah does as He pleases. And so a person that has hasad, they're trying to take something of rububiyyah. I have a say in the way these blessings should be distributed. The abd, we just work here. We're not here to make any decisions. حَتَّى كَأَنَّهُ يُنَازِعْ أَحْكَامَ الرُّبُوبِيَّةِ, to the extent that it's as if he is objecting, he's on the table objecting with Allah to the rulings of Lordship. وَيَنْسِبْ, pay attention here, وَيَنْسِبْ الظُّلْمِ إِلَى اللَّهِ فِي أَحْكَامِهِ فِي الْعَبِيدِ, And implicitly, he's ascribing dhulm, injustice to Allah in His rulings for His servants. Ta'ala Allahu an dhalika uluwan kabira. Allah is sublimely above that. Because what's dhulm in our tradition? What's dhulm defined as?
Harm.
But what's the definition of injustice?
Placing something where it doesn't belong.
Placing something where it doesn't belong. Dhulm wad'u shay fi ghayr mahallihi, to place something in its improper place. So by saying, Allah, why did you give that blessing to that person? Even if the heart is agitated, it's as if they're saying, Allah, you missed the right spot. I'm the right spot. A'udhu billah, ta'ala Allah. فَهُوَ حِينَئِذٍ مِنَ الْكَبَائِرِ. From that perspective, it is of the enormities of Islam, a major sin of Islam. وَدَّاءَاتَ الْخَطِرَةِ, and the very dangerous diseases. فَعَلَى مَنْ قَامَ بِقَلْبِهِ دَاءُ الْحَسَدِ. So the person that finds in his heart the disease of hasad, الْمُبَادَرَةِ إِلَىٰ عِلَاجِهِ. They should rush to its treatment. This is an emergency ER. This is not slow, long-term ICU. This is an ER. Rush to the emergency room. How? بِالرُّجُوعِ إِلَى مَعْرِفَةِ النَّفْسِ. By returning to realizing the state of one's soul. وَوُقُوفِهِ تَحْتَ قَهْرِ الْعُبُودِيَّةِ. And placing one's nafs, placing one's soul under the dominion of being a servant. Under the domination of Allah, of being a servant. وَتَسْلِيمَ الْكَائِنَاتِ إِلَى حِكْمَةِ الْمُدَبِّرِ الْحَكِيمِ. And consigning all events in the world to the wisdom of the all-wise manager and disposer of His affairs. خصوصا, especially in light of the fact, وَلَا فَائِدَةَ فِي الْمُنَازَعَةِ. There's no benefit anyways. You're not going to pull the blessing out. It's going to stay where it's supposed to be. خصوصا ولا فائدة, especially because there's no benefit in objecting لما قضاه الحكيم, in what Allah has already decreed in eternity. بل جميع المقدرات لا بد من كونها على موجب إرادته تعالى. Rather, everything that occurs, that has been decreed, must necessarily take place exactly as Allah has willed. It's not going to change anything anyways. وَلَا يَعُودْ شُؤْمُ الْحَسَدِ إِلَّا عَلَى مَنْ قَامَ بِهِ. And the evil of that disease only returns to the possessor. أَمَّا فِي الدُّنْيَا فَبِالْهَمِّ وَالْغَمِّ. How? In this life, stress and anxiety. You're all stressed out about how so-and-so is doing, so you're suffering because of the hasad. وَأَمَّا فِي الْآخِرَةِ فَبِالْعَذَابِ الْأَلِيمِ. Let alone the punishment in the next life. God forbid. Now, so we ask Allah Ta'ala to protect us from these diseases, and alhamdulillah, we did 15 or so, give or take, maybe 10 in depth, as inshallah, a beginning or a continuation of a journey to fix ourselves. Sariya Saqati, the Shaykh of Junaid, what does he say? He says that, so we'll end on the note of introspection. He says, مَا رَأَيْتُ أَحْبَطَ لِلْعَمَلِ وَلَا أَفْسَدَ لِلْقَلْبِ وَلَا أَسْرَعَ لِهَلَاكِ الْعَبْدِ وَلَا أَدْوَمَ لِلْإِضْرَارِ وَلَا أَقْرَبَ لِلْمَقْتِ وَلَا أَلْزَمْ لِطَرِيقِ الْعُجْبِ وَالرِّيَاءِ وَالْحَسَدِ مِنْ قِلَّةِ مَعْرِفَةِ الشَّخْصِ بِذُنُوبِهِ. The Shaykh of Junaid, he says that I never saw anything that destroys one's good deeds, nor anything that's more corrupting for the heart, nor anything that's quicker to destroy a servant, nor anything that's more long-lasting in causing harm to others, nor anything that is closer to the hatred of Allah, nor anything that keeps a person more stuck in diseases like narcissism and showing off and envy, then قِلَّةِ مَعْرِفَةِ الشَّخْصِ بِذُنُوبِهِ. Then how little a person knows his own sins. Then how little a person knows his own sins. So what's the very starting point of departure for all of these discussions is that we should be self-examining. We should be introspective, and we should watch out for these things, and inshallah take care of them while they're small. So if there's any questions, we'll endeavor to address them, inshallah. Bismillah. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
You mentioned tadallul and ithar, and there's one kind of tadallul that is not recommended, which is tadallul to humans, unless it's to a shaykh or people with knowledge. What would be distinction between tadallul and ithar?
Distinction between tadallul and ithar. So tadallul is a type of flattery or self-abasement that's normally blameworthy, with a few exceptions, and even in those exceptions it shouldn't be excessive. Even with a teacher or student, it shouldn't be, just moderate for the sake of the benefit of gaining more. But otherwise one does not display that, although we said internally one should have that state because of Allah's majesty. Ithar is to prefer others over oneself. So it's more through in the action, in the heart, to be content and be happier that other people are succeeding than oneself, or through the actions of giving preference through others, whether gifts or one's time or one's energy or one's khidmah. One is doing more for the other than one does even for themselves. This is ithar, both in the state of the heart, being content that other people have more, as well as the state of the actions, the actions of the limbs, with one's time, not simply gifts of the hand, charity, or gifts, but actually one's time, one's energy, one's khidmah, doing more for others than for oneself, and realizing that Allah will do more for you then, inshallah. Wallahu fi auni al-abd ma kana al-abd fi auni akhihi. Allah is in the service and help. Allah helps the servant so long as he is helping his fellow brother. So this is ithar. Wallahu a'lam. No. Any other questions? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
You mentioned that to treat ignorance, to treat kibr, arrogance, is to treat the ignorance that underlies it. What would you say some practical ways that we could do in our everyday life to treat arrogance or to practice humility?
Yeah, that's a good question. So practical ways in our everyday life to treat arrogance and practice humility. Khidmah, serving other people, especially when there's not much recognition. So, like low profile khidmah. Low profile khidmah. So there's not much recognition, there's not much of an applause, but it's really just you and Allah and the one that you're serving. This is a way, inshallah. Mundane chores are really helpful, So the day-to-day chores that we take for granted, to maybe lift a couple more fingers. If someone has a lot of arrogance, they should really just take ownership of all the household chores, and it'll really humble them, right? And to embrace situations where Allah sort of humbles us in society, and we ask Allah to be gentle with His actions. That the situations in different contexts when your coworker, your boss, your friends, your relatives, your in-laws, you might, in these different contexts where you feel humbled, you're not esteemed as much as in other contexts, or that you think you should be, then to just at those moments, not object, to embrace that and to realize it's good for the nafs to go through that. And so to embrace those situations. And it's like the man said, I had a problem with putting up with other people. Hilm, forbearance. I had a problem with hilm, of putting up with other people when they're annoying. So one of the Salaf said this. He said, to cure it, I found the most annoying person in town to room with. And I roomed with him as a roommate for several months until I came out fully forbearant. I could handle all annoying situations. So Allah Ta'ala, and one of the names of Allah, He's Rabb, Rabbul Alameen. Rabb means tarbiyah. He calls Himself tarbiyah. And in fact, Rabb is not the one that does tarbiyah. Literally in the Arabic language, Rabb is the act of tarbiyah. Because He does so much tarbiyah, He calls Himself tarbiyah. It's like the person that has so much courage, you don't just say he's courageous, you say he's courage itself. He is courage. He has so much of it. Allah has so much tarbiyah, He calls Himself tarbiyah. Rabb means tarbiyah. So He's the tarbiyah of us, of each of us, Rabbul Alameen. And so Allah is elevating our states through the different situations of our lives, He's, humbling us in different, when He humbles us in different ways and we ask Him to do it gently, then we should realize the tarbiyah of Allah and embrace those situations, inshallah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Any other questions? MashaAllah. Khair, inshallah. So we ask Allah Ta'ala to cure us of our diseases and cure the ummah of the collective diseases. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad and Nabiyyul Ummi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is the sunnah that we aim to emulate. But every character has their sunnah. Every person or agent or entity has their sunnah, the way a person is. And so Iblis, his sunnah is what? It's kibr. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands him to prostrate to Hazrat Adam alayhi salam, right, amongst the angels, he says no, he refuses to. Aba wastakbar. He refuses, wastakbar, and he has kibr. Allah Ta'ala describes, wastakbar, he has kibr, he's arrogant. And what does he say? He says, Ana khayrun min. And here's now the definition. So he's finding solace and he's relying on seeing himself as superior to another. Ana khayrun minhu, I'm better than him. Khalaqtani min nar wa khalaqtahu min teen. You created me from fire, you created him from clay. Which also shows that Iblis responds with logic. Iblis responds with logic. It's faulty logic, but he attempts, it's a syllogism, right? I'm made of fire, he's made of clay. Fire innately is better than clay, therefore I am better than him. It's a syllogism, which is why when Allah's hukum comes, we make sajda, we put the head down on the ground. We don't try to rationalize with Allah's hukum, but we submit. And literally he was supposed to put his head on the ground, he was supposed to make sajda, he was supposed to submit to that hukum. But he tried to rationalize his way out, which is why our tradition, without going too much into a tangent, the way of Ahl Sunnah is revelation first and then reason. Revelation first and then reason. So revelation comes, the Prophet comes, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the people around him seek him. They seek suhbah, they gravitate towards him to receive revelation, and then as they go through life, as they teach, as the next generation takes from them, receives revelation from them, needs emerge in the community that require reason. So explaining the meanings, assuring the community there's no contradictions in our theology, responding to criticisms, whether of other theologians or converts from other traditions who come with their intellectual baggage or luggage, however you look at it. So then reason is deployed to preserve and undergird or support revelation, to justify, if you will, in the minds of people, revelation. But it does not start with reason, in the sense that the Sahaba did not hear the Qur'an, learn it, and then go off in the world as philosophers to simply reason their way and make analogies on their own. It's not reason first and then revelation, it's revelation first and then reason. And this is the unique paradigm of Ahl Sunnah. If you look at all the different sects of Islam who are still Muslim, but they are outside of the Sunni paradigm, most, if not all, put reason first. They put reason first, and they departed from these chains of narration, which is preservation of revelation. The isnad is ultimately a connection to revelation first. In Islam, iman and ihsan, in the physical worship, the intellectual understandings, and the experiential element of the religion, revelation first through suhbah, chains of narration to the Prophet ﷺ, but then in the different circumstances the community finds itself in, reason is deployed for its use. So Iblis rationalized before receiving revelation. So this is the way of Iblis, kibr. وَمِنْ أَشَرِّ الْأَخْلَاقِ الْمَذْمُومَةِ, and this is of the worst of blameworthy traits. وَصَاحِبُهُ مُنَازِعٌ لِلَّهِ تَعَالَى فِي كِبْرِيَائِهِ وَعَظَمَتِهِ. Okay, why is this so disgusting?
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad an-Nabiyyul Ummi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Rabbana atina min ladunka rahma wa hayyi lana min amrina rashada wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad an-Nabiyyul Ummi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah. We'll specifically begin with reciting Al-Fatiha for Asif Bhai's uncle, rahimahullah, who passed away recently, and for all of our loved ones or people that we know that have passed away, and for all that are suffering in the Ummah. Al-Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. So, continuing where we left off, we were reading, going through sins of the heart from Imam Nahlawi. Is it good? Is it on? No? Bismillah.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Is this Imam Nawawi the same one that did the 40 hadith?
No, this is Nahlawi. Nahlawi. The other one is Nawawi.
Okay, nah.
Nahlawi with the H. Bismillah. Jazakallah khair. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad an-Nabiyyul Ummi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam tasliman kathira. So, leaving off or resuming where we left off, Imam Nahlawi rahimahullah ta'ala, we're on the 12th vice or sin of the heart. And we mentioned that we skipped over a few because those discussions would be lengthy. But the 12th one is al-kibr. Al-kibr, which is arrogance. It's with the sukun in the middle, kibr. If you say kibar with the fatha, it means to be larger than, right? Physically larger. So that's a different word. But kibr with the sukun is arrogance. And he follows this one with a couple sins later. He mentions al-ujub. The 14th is al-ujub. So, al-ujub can be translated as narcissism, al-kibr, arrogance. What's the difference? Al-ujub is merely internal. It's irrespective of other people. When one thinks themselves as special, when one thinks of himself or herself as deserving merit, whereas al-kibr is externally oriented. It's vis-a-vis another person, or vis-a-vis the truth. So we'll discuss that. And so kibr is a manifestation of ujub. Kibr is when ujub manifests externally. If it remains internal, it's ujub. So al-kibr, he defines it, he says, وَهُوَ الْإِسْتِرْوَاحُ وَالرُّكُونُ إِلَى رُؤْيَةِ النَّفْسِ فَوْقَ الْمُتَكَبَّرِ عَلَيْهِ فلا بد منه بخلاف العجب فإنه لا يحتاج إلى من يعجب عليه حتى يسمى عجبا. He says kibr, arrogance, is to find satisfaction. Istirwah is to find raha. You find comfort, you find satisfaction, you find a type of repose. وَالرُّكُونِ إِلَى, and also you rely on. So it's to find comfort, solace, and to rely on. رؤية النفس فوق المتكبر عليه, seeing yourself as superior to the one that you're arrogant towards. So it is to be comfortable with, to find solace in, and to rely on the notion of seeing yourself as superior than someone else. This is kibr. And so he makes the distinction between ujub. He says, so therefore, for kibr to take effect, there must be another person that you see yourself superior to, as opposed to ujub, narcissism, because a person alone can be narcissistic. It doesn't need a fellow person. He says, wal kibru haram. Kibr is unlawful. Okay, kibr is unlawful. It is a sinful disease of the heart. It's not merely blameworthy. Last week we mentioned a few that were blameworthy, like tama', for example, coveting something of the dunya. We said as long as that thing that you're coveting is not haram, then the tama' is not haram. It's very blameworthy. It's a type of disease, but it's not sinful in and of itself. Kibr in and of itself is haram. So there's actually sin incurred when a person sees himself as better than another and has these emotional components, these psychological components, which are istirwah and rukun, to find solace in it and to rely on it. He says it's a radila azima min al-ibad. It's really a horrific enormity. It's a disgusting enormity of servants. وَهُوَ سُنَّةُ إِبْلِيسَ اللَّعِينَ. It is the sunnah of the accursed devil. Okay, so this word sunnah, we use it normally for أَن يَكُنْ ثَوْبُهُ حَسَنًا وَنَعْلُهُ حَسَنًا. He says, O Allah's Messenger, a person loves that his garments and his sandals look beautiful. A person loves for his garments and sandals to be beautiful. And he says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, إِنَّ اللَّهَ جَمِيلٌ يُحِبُّ الْجَمَالِ الْكِبْرُ بَطْرُ الْحَقِّ وَغَمْطُ النَّاسِ. So the Prophet responds, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, verily Allah is beautiful and loves beauty. So our desire to look nice, to be presentable in the way we dress, in the way we carry ourselves, this is not arrogance. And so how does the Prophet explain it? Allah is beautiful and He loves beauty. This is adorning yourself with something that reflects a divine attribute. Rather, what is kibr, what is arrogance? Batrul haqq wa ghamtun nas. It's obstinacy to the truth and demeaning other people. Batrul haqq, obstinacy, rejection, arrogant rejection of truth, and looking down and belittling fellow man. So there's two ways kibr manifests. We said it has to be vis-a-vis an other. The other can either be truth or a person. It's not only towards people. Belittling a person, that's kibr. But when truth is presented to a person, and when it's made clear and shown that it's true, then how does the heart respond? If it rejects it out of a state of a haughtiness, if it doesn't submit to truth, that's kibr, towards the truth now. So, batrul haqq wa ghamtun nas, or belittling fellow man. This is the hadith. And the ethics is obvious of being humble. The metaphysics is from the statement, Inna Allaha jamilun yuhibbul jamal. Verily Allah is beautiful and He loves beauty. In the sense that all of beauty in the world, every time we see beauty, every time we recognize beauty, we are in reality recognizing something of Allah. Every time we see beauty, we are in reality recognizing something of the divine beauty. It's mirroring an attribute of God. And if you notice, beauty is one of the 3 reasons why people fall in love. Right? The 3 reasons that people fall in love, the ulama say, Jamal, Kamal, and Ihsan. There's 3 reasons why people fall in love. Jamal, when they see beauty. Kamal, when they see perfection or mastery. And Ihsan, when people are good to them. When people act beautifully towards them. Ihsan, also from the root husn, which is beauty. It all goes back to beauty. So, in the world, when we see Jamal, when we see beauty, and we are the heart, there's something that happens to the heart, something that happens to the soul that's inexplicable. It's inexplicable. What is it that touches the soul, right? It's Allah touching the soul. When the heart sees Kamal, perfection, any perfection, you see a master pianist, a master musician, a master sports athlete, a master, anytime we perceive Kamal in the world, it's reflecting Allah's Kamal. Allah is the one giving the ability to reach mastery. And it touches the soul in a way that mundane things don't touch the soul. What's touching the soul? Something of Allah's perfection. When we see ihsan, anytime people around us are good to us, the goodwill and love that we experience, the generosity that we experience from our families, from our friends, from our communities, from the stranger that smiles, all of these, the big and the little, the great and the small, these are reflecting Allah's ihsan. It's one of the main reasons why kibr, arrogance, is so disgusting, is because such a person is competing with God. Such a person is competing with Allah Ta'ala in Allah's kibriya. So Allah has kibriya. The human, when they are arrogant, they have kibr. But when a person has kibr, then they're trying to co-share in Allah's kibriya. Kibriya is Allah's, unending majesty, His supreme majesty, subhanahu wa ta'ala, His supreme glory, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah can say, Ana khayrun min. Allah can say, Allahu Akbar. Allah is greater, Allah is better, Allah is superior. One of the names of Allah is Al-Mutakabbir. Al-Mutakabbir. When this word is used for human beings, it's a disease. When it's used for Allah, it's a praiseworthy name, one of the beautiful names of Allah, because He has the right to say, I am better than my creation. For He is indeed better than His creation. So when a person tries to have, when they're arrogant towards others, then it's as if they're competing with God in His kibriya wa adama, in His glory and majesty. And then he goes into terminology. He says, if this is manifested in behavior, it's called takabbur. If this is manifested in behavior, it's called takabbur. The way you talk to someone, the way you deal with someone, that's called takabbur. If it stays internal, it's simply that internal solace of feeling superior, then it's kibr. Then it's kibr. Which is why takabbur can be seen in the world. You can see takabbur in the world when one person is arrogant towards another. Okay? Whereas kibr in and of itself is in the heart of a person. And both are haram. And he's going to talk about how to deal with the mutakabbir a little bit. Ibn Mas'ud relates, Allah be pleased with him, that the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this is one of the most central hadith that has both ethics and metaphysics in it. Muslim relates this, it's Sahih hadith. The Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, لا يدخل الجنة من كان في قلبه مثقال ذرة من كبر. A person who in his heart is an atom's weight of arrogance shall not enter paradise. لا يدخل الجنة من كان في قلبه مثقال ذرة من كبر. And this is very frightening. Someone who has an atom's weight, مثقال ذرة. You know, the dharra is the smallest particle, so the string or the electron, whatever is the smallest. That much of kibr in their heart, لا يدخل الجنة, shall not enter paradise. Imam Nahlawis rahimahullah, when he comments Nawawi, not Nahlawi, Nawawi, when he comments on this hadith, he says that, of course, in our Aqidah, every Muslim eventually goes to paradise. So, how do we understand the statement that the Prophet says, لا يدخل الجنة, shall not enter paradise a person that has an atom's weight of kibr in their heart? That Nawawi says, rahimahullah, that with respect to a Muslim that has kibr, it could mean that they will not be amongst the first wave of Muslims that enter paradise, i.e., there's a great delay in their time. Or there is a temporary punishment that they have to go through in the hell before being taken out. We ask Allah to protect us from that. So the hadith continues, فَقَالَ رَجُلٌ, a man asked, إِنَّ الرَّجُلْ يُحِبُّ